Okay, I'm going to get started. How this is going to work is I'm going to talk to you for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then I think they have a link for you to break out, like if you teach economics, you break out with those so you could work on specific content and share ideas amongst yourselves. Okay. My name is Phil Bressler. I teach AP Economics. I taught at Lansdowne. I taught at Eastern Tech. I taught at Delaney, and now I I teach at Calvert Hall High School. Those are the three schools I've had. I've had good success in AP with like high scores, but I've got to the point where I don't even worry about the scores. I think they do demonstrate learning, but I just worry about all the other things, and then the scores usually take care of themselves. So obviously I'm not going to talk content because everyone is, from different subjects. So I'll just give you some thoughts and ideas that I use. I am not very organized, systematic. So if you have a question, just get on and interrupt me. It doesn't matter. I just want to answer all your questions. And I love answering questions. So if you have any questions, please just ask them. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, all I could say is today, I am less certain what I do is right. I'm less certain about what great teaching is, and I'm more curious than ever. So I think I'm going to talk to you today. Hopefully some things click, some things might be helpful, but by no means do I think what I'm saying is the end all be all of teaching. I really, like I said, it's almost about everything in life now. I'm less certain about things, but much more curious to find out what other people are doing and what else is going on. And like I said, we're all different. Hopefully something today you like, and hopefully you could use it. Before I get started, I'll put this in the chat. I did an interview with Angela Duckworth, and if you're not familiar, Angela's one of the leading psychologists on character in the world. She wrote the book Grit, but she spent the last 2 or 3 years really focusing on learning and how to teach. And I got to do an interview with her. I think it's worth checking out. It's in the chat. And she is really good. And then the second thing I put, if you want, starting in 2 weeks, if you just Googled Education by an Angry Old Man, you get my blog. And my blog is never about economics. It's usually about character or some thoughts about education. So feel free to check that out. All right, my purpose for teaching is to educate students so they can take both the knowledge and skills to make the world a better place. And I think that is the foremost, and that's what motivates me and drives me each and every day, is to, try to get kids ready to make the world a better place. And I'm probably the oldest teacher at my school. I'm probably the oldest teacher right here on. I am confident the world is going to be better by the kids I teach. They're smart, much smarter than when I went to school, and also much more sensitive to our needs. I'm going to start off with Maslow's hierarchy, which haunted me because when I went to school, I was a business major, and Maslow showed up in every business management course as a motivator. I took some psychology classes, and there was Maslow again. And finally, when I took some ed classes, Maslow was there again. So he stalked me through college. But I spent a lot of time this summer thinking, why are kids not successful? The kid who doesn't turn in his homework day after day, then does bad on a test, and typically will say hey, Ken, you need to work harder. And Ken will say, yeah, I do. And maybe for a day or two, Ken does work harder, but then he stops. And it's because it's not that Ken was lying. It's we didn't solve the problem. The problem isn't yelling at Ken. The problem is that Ken is missing something in Maslow's hierarchy of one of the four. Like Maslow would say esteem, love, belonging, safety, biologic. Those are deficiency needs, meaning if you don't get those, you are not going to be focusing on like learning. You're going to be focusing on, I need to eat, okay? I need to rest. So like, these are the things. So now when a student is not doing well in my class, I think, how have I failed to provide one of Maslow's 4 basic needs? And I'll tell you, if you look at it from that perspective, how I failed as a teacher, the answer is going to be different than how did Ken fail as a student. And I find that when I look at it this way, I don't get a temporary change. I get a long run. I unlock that person. Now, the 2 that well, there's 3 that I see like that happens a lot for me. Safety, meaning to me, because our school, I think environment is very safe, but do they feel safe in my class? Do they feel they could be them in my class? And I think that's an important thing. Putting an environment where kids feel they could be them, they could share, they are vulnerable in front of each other. And then belonging. And I think this happens in AP a lot. Like, not only do I look around and do I have kids who look like me in the class, but do I really belong? Am I academically really an AP student? And I think I spend a lot of time trying to build confidence. I also have quotes from former students who like struggled at the beginning and then did well at the end. So like, I could have kids realize that if you're struggling, you still belong. You just might not be there yet, and you're eventually going to get there. And then self-esteem. And I'm just going to tell you, like, kids act out a lot because of low self-esteem. And you could have, like, I had a student with 1440 SATs, which probably puts you in the top, what, 5 or 6 or 12% of the United States. And this guy had low self-esteem. So like, I think if you really, my big thing on the whole Maslow hierarchy is change your perspective. When a kid isn't doing well, how did you or the school fail them? And then you're going to come up with a different answer. The Ken is not trying and yelling at Ken. I haven't seen that to be successful. Anyone have any questions or thoughts on that? I talk a lot about vulnerability, and vulnerability, I think for most, especially guys, is thought of as a weakness. And I challenge them to tell me any act of courage where someone wasn't vulnerable. And you can't, right? Anytime you are courageous, you're risking, and risking is vulnerability. And so we try to really, really talk about vulnerability, like being able to take risks in the class. And I try to encourage them, like, the best time to try to raise your hand and answer a question is when you're not sure you know the answer. Because if you're not sure and you get it wrong, we're going to unpack it and we're going to straighten it out and fix it for you. I mean, to raise your hand when you know the answer, like nothing's really happening. Like you answer it, you get it right, and you feel good, I guess. But I'm trying to get the guys to answer and ask questions when they don't know, and to take those risks, and to try to get the whole class to take those risks. Because I think, like, you can't have great learning if you're not vulnerable and the classroom is not vulnerable. Now, if you would ask my wife, she'd probably say I'm the most sarcastic person she ever met, but I do not use sarcasm in the classroom. And sarcasm is a great way to get kids to laugh. And to me, it's like, I don't have a good sense of humor. So it's like a cheap, easy way to get jokes. But even if you know the kid you're being sarcastic to can handle it, you do not know how someone else in the class is feeling. So if I'm sarcastic to Jordan, I don't know how Marie feels about it. She could be sitting there thinking, oh my God, I hope he never says that to me. And by the way, that just shuts down the learning. So I talk a lot about sarcasm. I talk a lot about study skills. What I'm going to do this year is every week make them reflect upon, like on Monday, just tell them, Friday, I want you to hand in a reflection on how you were vulnerable this week in school. How did it feel? Why did you, why were you vulnerable? And just a reflection on vulnerability. Because I think a lot of times we talk about things like, we talk about character things, and then we just let them go. And I want them to continue to reflect upon it throughout the year. So once a week, I'm going to have them do reflections. And it could be 1 week, right? Hey, reflect on a study skill you used this week. Tell me, did it work or not? Do you plan on using it again? Now, the second thing is, I talked to a lot of admissions directors this year, and they told me the college essays are probably, for all kids all over the country, are horrible. And they said kids are very bad at reflecting upon things. And I don't think we give them a lot of practice. So this is kind of going to be a twofold thing. One, I want them to reflect and think about being more vulnerable, think about their study skills, think about their social emotional needs. And so that'll be one thing. And then the second thing, hopefully it'll help their college essay writing. All right, one of the things I keep track of is Breslau's blunders. So I put up on the board Breslau's blunders, and then every time I blunder, I put a mark on. And usually the class, catches me in a mistake. And I just put a mark there. And I say, if by January I have 75 or more blunders, which by the way, I always hit, then I'll buy the class donuts. Or I think this year, because we're virtual, I said I'd curve the midterm 5%. And that inspires them. But what I want them to see is that I'm supposed to be the expert, right? I'm supposed to be the person who knows everything. And yet I make mistake after mistake. So if I can make mistakes, they can make mistakes. All right. And I want to try to model the vulnerability. And the kids love it, by the way. And they're great at catching my mistakes. I start every class with a drill, and the drill is usually some sort of review of what we did in the past. And it's usually an AP multiple choice question. But before that, I ask them to put 3 good things that happened in the last 24 hours. All right. And I'm a big believer in gratitude. The next slide, I'll talk to you about why. But I think when you're doing 3 good things, it changes your mental set. Instead of holding on to negative things, you start thinking of positive. Now, if I'm walking around the room and Eugene is doing his drill before his 3 good things, I'll say mental health before academic well-being. Let's take care of our mental health. Let's do our 3 good things. Then we could prepare for academic well-being. Now, just that saying, kids have said it back to me, makes them feel good. I'm more concerned about their well-being than their learning. And I'll always say, you got 7 other teachers who'll take care of your academic well-being. So we start out with 3 good things. Now, I post my 3 good things on the board every day. I think it's a good thing. It allows the kids to get to know me because they're seeing things that are important to me, what I'm grateful for. I walk around and once in a while kids will share. I'll ask a couple of kids to share theirs so we get to know each other. And so I think there's a positive externality. That's not why I do it. I don't do it to create discussion or that. I do it because there's research that says the benefits of gratitude are you're healthier. Okay, you're happier, you're more honest. That when kids think about being grateful, they are less likely to cheat. So it's probably good before a test to give them 3 good things. And it decreases anxiety. Gratitude is like, to me, gratitude and sleep are like the miracle drugs. Like they solve so many problems. So if I could get the kids to be grateful, to do 3 good things each and every day and get those things, get them healthier, happier, more honest, and decrease anxiety, I mean, you know, I think I'm winning. And if anxiety and depression, by the way, a lot of times make kids look lazy, who are not lazy. They're just like paralyzed. So that's the way we start. I also started this thing, and I got it from Angela Duckworth. I do office hours. So like if a test is worth 100 points, you get 5 out of 5 for meeting with me, you know, and you know, the goal is to like meet once a month. So it's a 5-minute meet with me once a month. The great thing about technology now, like you can Zoom it, like if the kid wants to meet you at night, it could be before school. And it's just like a get to know you. Like I can't solve your Maslow's needs if I really don't get to know you. So at first I like to do one-on-one. And then though, if you want to meet with some friends, that's good. Now, it takes a lot of time. But I would say it's like, you know, when we as teachers try to say you should study a little each and every day, even though it takes a lot of time each day, at the end, you're studying less the day before the test. I say this is the same thing. If you meet with the kids, the upfront cost of time is tremendous. But at the back end, it saves you from a lot of problems. So there's the office hours. I have to say, in fairness, my school is constructed with a lot more open time than in the public school. You know, like, so me and kids share off periods where they can meet me on an off period during the school day. I guess, like if I was in public school, I would do it during my lunch. All right, I have high expectations for all the kids. Like I don't curve my AP test, even though the AP is curved. But it's also with high support. So before any assessment, I always have a review for the kids, and I'll talk about reviews and previews. I do spend like a day doing one-on-ones in class with the guys. There's a lot of support for them, all right? So I think like it's easy to have high expectations, but it's not, you have to also have the support that goes with it. And like if someone has under an 80 in my class, they have to meet with me one-on-one until they get above the 80 mark. So like we usually meet one-on-one for like 30 minutes. And that's the kind of support and encouragement to try to get them. And again, to unwrap that Maslow thing. I also should say, when I'm thinking of support and everything, like in a way, we think COVID ended. Like COVID isn't ending in their minds. Like they're going to still be anxious about coming back. They're going to still be like stressed out. And I think we got to be really aware of that. All right, preview versus review. I think like we're really good at like reviewing materials, you know, like before a test. And so one of the things I'm going to start doing is every Sunday, I'm going to make a video previewing what I think is the toughest concepts coming up for the week. Now, you know, if the kids want to hear me live, like I'm going to do it from my house, I'll put it on like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever you guys use. I'm going to put it on there, but I'm also going to video it so they could use it. So my idea is like, let's get a little taste of the toughest concepts before we actually tackle them in class. So like when we're tackling them in class, that's the second time you've seen it, and it should be a lot easier, instead of like, oh wow, ooh, man, this is hard, and you turn off in class because you get lost. At least you kind of have a little background beforehand, if you came to the Sunday preview or you watched the preview video. I really think this is a strong thing that is very worth the time. All right, one-on-one. So if I taught someone one-on-one the whole year, they'd improve 1 standard deviation. All right, so that would be like a kid having 1,000 on his SATs going to 1,200. And that's a tremendous jump, 1 standard deviation. Okay, so I try to do as much one-on-one with kids who are struggling as possible, but obviously we can't do one-on-one, right? I mean, it's impossible. So what I do is like 1 day a week, I dedicate for students working with each other one-on-one in the class. All right. In economics, graphing is really important. So we do a lot of one-on-one graphing with kids helping each other. And I'll set them up and maybe sometimes give them hard problems that they could work on as a team. And therefore they're tutoring each other. Now, the research says if I'm tutoring Steve, I get better too. And that makes sense. Like when you teach something, you do get better, all right? Because you got to think of ways. So it's both the person who's tutoring and the person who's receiving tutoring both get better. What is sometimes cool is the weaker kid is helping the stronger kid on a concept, which really helps the weaker kid feel good about themselves. All right. So I think the one-on-one, taking a day to allow them to tutor each other. And again, I work on 40 minutes. You guys work on 85. So maybe it's a half day. Maybe it's 40 minutes in a period. And it's what I call organized chaos, because different things are going on around the room. Kids are hitting different things. And I'm just like walking around like almost, being, as a resource if they have questions. But I think it's really powerful. One-on-one is definitely, obviously, we'd all like to be able to teach that way. All right, before any assessment I give a practice assessment. The best way for a kid to study is to do questions, is to do practice questions. So like if I have a 30 question multiple choice, I give them 50 practice questions. So they could look at it. And then, I'm available usually before school or that night to answer any questions that they might have. Because they might go through a question and they got the answer, but they don't know why the answer is correct. So I want to make sure that's clarified. If I'm giving like a writing assignment or a free response, I do the same thing. I give them a practice assessment so they could go through and they get a feel. So, if they realize, wow, I can't answer that practice assessment, they could zone in on what they have to study more. Telling kids to reread their notes, like, I don't find that effective because I think they go and they reread their notes and they go, oh, I know that, because they kind of heard that the first time. All right. The last thing I'll get to is I think feedback is the breakfast of champions. Okay. I think feedback is like the most important thing in learning. And I would argue that students giving teacher feedback is more important than us giving the students feedback. So anyhow, I end class every day with this. It's how much did I learn today? And, I think like I first started out, how much did you like the class today? I don't really care, do they like the class? I want them to learn. Like you could like the class and we could have a lot of fun and you could learn. So they go 1 to 10, right? And then before the next class, I always give them how the class rated it. So how much did I learn today? And by the way, I'm using Poll Everything. You could just put this on a piece of paper and have them just hand it to you. And then suggestions, like, that they would have. And usually they have like really good suggestions on how to make the class better. and then any questions. All right. So like, I know I'll start the next class with what's the difference between classical and Keynes, because someone was confused. Now, why would we go on before we clarified? But if I didn't ask the question, and by the way, kids are not good at raising their hand when they don't know something. So these are the three things I do at the end, so I get feedback. If you ask me what's the best professional development I've had in my career, that would be it. Students telling me. And by the way, is it fun to spend 90 minutes developing a lesson and you really think it's a good lesson and the kids say they didn't learn? No. But you know what? They know they didn't learn. So it's not like it's a big secret. They know it. I rather know that myself. All right. I think I might have exceeded my time, but I'm at my time. Does anyone have any questions before I release you? Just turn on your mic and ask. Someone has to ask one question. That's the rule.
I don't have a question. Oh,
Go.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say I really think that Phil's philosophy focuses on like a humanistic approach to teaching. It really requires you as the teacher to always treat the students like another human with respect and affirmation, and do what you can to try to pull them up to where they need to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, that not a question. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, and I think we all, you know, treat our kids with respect, and you know, you hit on something. Like, I've had really, really good AP scores, and I put them up at the beginning of class, and kids, I'll ask the kids, why did you, what do you think? And, you know, at the end I say, because I teach very smart kids. And that's the start of the confidence in them. Like, I want to build their confidence. And we don't talk a lot about confidence in teaching, but I think it's important. Anyone else with a question? Come on. No one?
How do you define a blunder?
Oh, it's typically anything the class, you know, I might like slip up on a graph and forget, like, you know, to label something. I might, you know, put something on a PowerPoint that, you know, I usually don't allow them to do typos, but like, you know, maybe a grammar thing on a PowerPoint isn't right. So like, you know, I'm very good at whatever they tell me is a blunder, you know. I'm trying to think, like, and it forces me to fix it before the next class, you know, because I don't want to get hit twice. So I think that, but like I said, I'm very loose on it because I want them to get me.
No, I love it. I was trying to figure out what to do with an extra space on a whiteboard. So thanks for helping me solve that.
Yeah, you can put your 3 good things there too. Anyone else? Okay, I appreciate, like, you're great. Now, I guess you have a link to go to your breakout rooms. So go do that. I remember, like, I think in a lot of schools, you could be the only AP teacher. So I think this is, you know, when I taught AP Psych, I was the only AP teacher at Eastern, and it was really good to share with my colleagues. So you guys have a great day, and take care. Have a great year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.